Chapter 6. Angels Along the Way. When we forgive evil, we do not excuse it. We do not tolerate it. We do not smother it. We look the evil full in the face, call it what it is, let its horror shock and stun and enrage us, and only then do we forgive it. Louis B. Smedes. Forgive and forget, healing the hurts that we don't deserve. Della Reese is one of my favorite ministers and actresses. The one who was the lead angel in Touched by an Angel. Her delightful interpretation of her life and the people in it, her angels along the way she called them, was a rude awakening for me. Her gratefulness and willingness to forgive all the people in her life, including those who weren't so wonderful to her, put a healthy but confusing perspective back into my life. I say confusing because my mother, my siblings, and I have worked ourselves endlessly to find ways to forgive my father for his heartless way of treating my mother. I know there are many who have bumped heads with me when it comes to my father because I have been angry, hurt, and confused for many years. Many reading this memoir have dated him or known someone he dated or even hurt my mother in one way or another by being with their husband. I forgive you. I've had many encounters where I have expressed utter disappointment and distress over my father's behavior only because I have witnessed the pain my mother has endured. No woman should ever tolerate such pain for the sake of love. This book is one way to make it okay for women like my mother to finally talk about the hidden pain of being a wife to a polygamist who has no regard for her heart or her feelings except for the need to have total control. My father, for some reason, has in many ways treated my mother like she's a piece of nothing in front of us children. He has demeaned her, ridiculed her, and falsely accused her of cheating, physically and emotionally abusing her beyond measure. My siblings and I have seen and nursed her after she has been brutally beaten or emotionally abused, or both. I have many times asked the question, how do you forgive in such instances? Just as many of you will after reading this. Before I answer, let me further publicly vent so that you too can feel free to finally let it all out and free your hearts. Mother tells me my father and his wife stayed in her home where she endured severe physical abuse for 9 years. Why? Why did she let go for so long? Why was she not strong enough to say no, to leave, to come to her children for help? These are the questions every polygamist child asks. They are the questions the wives of a polygamist ask. They wonder why they could not break the cycle. Well, we are breaking the cycle. Polygamy is supposedly a celebrated practice that was done to expand the family, to strengthen the family unit, as I am told. Mother says that even though it hurts to have another woman with your man, it is believed that if it is done in a manner where you still feel loved, cared for, and respected, you can learn to live with it. My family is my world. All who know us have always admired us, sneered at us, or jeered at us. But I do not think anyone had or has any idea of what lies behind those smiles, those laughs, and those doors. Revealing the family's secrets is taboo in my culture, but what I have learned is that it is difficult to move on in life when your heart is heavy and hurting. I'm ready to share my innermost pain in the hope that as I'm freed, as my mother is freed, many women, men, and children will also be freed from this inner turmoil. I guess my pain has come from wanting to understand how my father, once a loving, caring man before he became a polygamist, could be so cruel and heartless to my mother, a woman who has stuck by his side for 47 years, taken care of his 7 children, and kept the Mahlatini name going. I also struggle with understanding why mother has not let go of my father, why she has not left him mentally or emotionally. I understand it takes two. So she also has a responsibility to stop the mental and spiritual torture that my father's actions have caused. I can only attribute this to fear. Fear of leaving the children to grow up with an uncaring stepmother, or fear of being ridiculed if she went back to her hometown. But mostly she tells me it is because her mother told her that no matter what happened in her marriage, she should not leave her children with another woman to raise. In addition, the inner pain, which I'll explain later, can be so crippling that one is unable to make any changes. For that unconditional love and sacrifice, Mother, we, your 7 children, Stembile, Stabile, Sdumile, Swisisiwe, and Simon, are forever grateful. It is stories and memories, like when Mother nearly went blind in 2009 due to stress and inner pain, that most women in Zimbabwe, from the time I left home, had not heard or learned about. Mother's inner pain and stress is not uncommon. Many women in polygamous relationship have learned to suppress their feelings and cater to their husbands' and children's needs. Many are committed for life as they don't feel they have the right or the strength to leave their children and divorce. Mother tells us many times she prayed and asked the Lord to take her, especially when she was bitten until she was all swollen and bruised for no apparent reason. My oldest brother Stanley witnessed an incident he says still makes him very upset. He states he went home one afternoon to find Mother all swollen and crying after Dad had hit her. Mother begged my brother not to confront my father, saying he needed to keep the respect of father and son, so he should leave it alone. He did, and it still bothers him how someone could think of hitting our petite mother who is so fragile and vulnerable. Needless to say, that after the blindness started getting worse, I rushed home to Zimbabwe to bring Mother back to the USA for treatment. At this time, my father had been gone with his second wife and third wives for over 20 years and had started new families with them. He never bothered to call her to come visit her during the time she was going blind. He, however, is considered and still is the head of my mother's home, even though he has not spent a night in over 20 years and visited only a handful of times. When father moved out of the house, Mother said she refused to leave as he wanted her to do because that is the house where she has raised us. Another reason was that the home in Waterfall, Zimbabwe is the only place we all call home. We have nowhere else to go when we visit. He never thinks of how much more mental damage this will cause us children, his grandchildren, let alone my mother. In the years since, Mother has made repairs, kept the house maintained, so that when we all visit Zimbabwe, we have a place to go. I have been home 4 times now, and it has been a blast being home. Mother has always believed that the house was in both their names, and trusting her husband, my father, to have purchased the home in both their names. As the Lord will see it, when my father left the house and decided to move out with his second wife, my mother had to struggle to catch up with the house payments. My sister and I had to help pay for the home, and we had our mother keep the title deeds after paying the home off. No one bothered to ask Mother to check whose name was on the title deeds. We all relaxed and believing that this was Mom and Dad's home, and Mom believed it too. It was not until she had been here in the USA for a year receiving medical treatment that my father called me and said he was selling our home in Waterfalls because he needed the money. Moreover, Mother was now an American. Moreover, he said Mother was now a US citizen, so she didn't need the home anymore. I explained to him that she was only here on a green card and not as a citizen, so she would be coming back home to Zimbabwe after she regains her strength. He was so angry and stern and said he was selling the home anyway because it was his home. I know many are probably asking why Mother got a green card and Dad didn't. Here's the funny synopsis of what happened. As a firstborn, I knew at some point we would all need to help care for our step-siblings from the other 2 mothers. This revelation came after I completed my doctorate in Florida, moved back to Massachusetts, and realized I was ready to set my life in order. The biggest aspect of setting my life in order was that I needed to free my mind, and I needed to deal with the deeper inner pains caused by my father's decision to practice polygamy. I also knew that his children were innocent and they would need all the help they could get. I spoke to my siblings and we all agreed to pay for both mom and dad's USA green card application. We sent in the applications, and when they were called in for interviews, my father reportedly sat there and told the USA embassy officer that he was not accepting the green card unless his 2 other wives and their children were also given green cards, necessary in order for them to go to America with him. I'm sure the lady looked at him in amazement, as this practice is not lawful or acceptable in the USA. When she told my father he could not get green cards for his other wives, he told the officer that the United States could keep their green card because they have to acknowledge that he's a polygamist and he cannot leave his other families behind. The embassy gave him a week to think about it and called my brother to tell him the outcome of the interview. I called my father only to be told that my siblings and I had not included his other family members in the application because we wanted to separate them, which was untrue. I explained to him that what we had actually wanted was for him to get his papers first. Then he could file for his other kids, and that way they could in turn file for their prospective mothers, as we were now doing for him and our mother. For some reason, he was stuck on the idea that the USA didn't or wouldn't understand that he was a polygamist, and he decided that the green card would not split him from his other families. He declined the card, and the application was closed. Mother received a green card and can now travel back and forth from Zimbabwe and USA without the hassle of applying for a visa. My dad can and will continue to visit us. However, he has to apply for a U.S. visa each time. I have no doubt that he will get the visa each time because they know he's a polygamist who has no intention of staying in the USA. Oh, does he? I may never know. As far as I know and believe, we did our part. Today, I carry no guilt for not having any intentions of helping the siblings who were born in the small houses, as they call them in Zimbabwe. My intentions, together with those of my siblings, were to give them the freedom of living in the USA that we never had growing up. If my father had accepted his green card, which is a temporary visa, he could have filed for all of them. And with those temporary visas, they could have traveled to the USA and applied for American tuition assistance programs, advantages that we never had. We have had to sweat to reach our goals. Our success and our education have not come easy. We've had to work hard to attain everything we have achieved, following a long, tedious, but very rewarding road. To God be the glory. Months later, my father realized that he had missed a great opportunity. I think that at this point he had consulted with some intelligent individuals who had informed him of the right way to handle the green card issue, instead of misleading him accidentally as the close confidants he had relied on the first time had done. It was, however, too late. The file was closed. He called and asked us to try and reopen the case, but to no avail. It was too late. He, however, took it as an indication that we did not want him here, and yet he himself had unfortunately declined the opportunity of a lifetime. Many people wish they could have a chance of getting a green card, as many people find that getting one is a very, very challenging and difficult process. His reaction was to find ways in which he could be vindictive to us and to our mother, though for what reason I'll never know. He decided that he was going to sell the only place we called home, our house in Waterfalls. As I write this section, my heart is heavy, for I recall my mother's tears and pain when I told her the house was being sold. She lost so much weight in only a few days, and I didn't know how to console her. My siblings and I had to hire a lawyer to help us stop him, and that is when, to our amazement, we were told that Mother's name was never in the title deeds. The house was only in his name. We were able to have the lawyers sue my father to stop him from selling the house before Mother could go home. Fortunately, many of the people who went to view the home asked about the reasons it was being sold, and upon hearing of the tension between my parents regarding the sale, they decided to refrain from buying the house. Today, we value life more than property. We value health more than property. And we value the grace of God in our lives more than property. This is the part of the practice of polygamy that I didn't understand, at least at first. As I mentioned before, I wondered for a long time why my mother and many of the other women who have been emotionally and physically abused by their husbands have not left or sought help. I now know, and I wish to share the answer with all those who will read this book. My hope and prayer is that this will open a way for many to begin healing. The reason it is so difficult to live has to do with the inner pain one endures and the inner fears one has of what could happen. For my mother, the pain and the fear of what would happen after she left are the things that kept her from leaving. Inner pain cannot be seen on an X-ray. You cannot go to a pain management clinic to get an injection that will relieve your inner pain. Far too often, the inner pain is well hidden because most women in Zimbabwe have not felt that it is okay for them to openly express their inner pain. Unfortunately, those women are the ones who have had to live with this excruciating pain and the shame that accompanies it. I will call women like my mother and us, her children, victims. We were victims, frightened for many years by what we worried my father would do to our mom, or what he would do to us, his children, if we were to ever rebel or confront him about his actions. We've had to deal with the inner pain that is manifested and experienced in the form of serious depression, even to the extent of suicidal thoughts, or during especially low times, wishing we were dead. I know of many women and children who were actually successful in their attempts to take their own lives. For them, it seemed that death was the only most reasonable and easily attainable treatment or resolution to the emotional and mental pain they had to suffer. I have watched my own mother reach a level of incredible hopelessness a number of times, and she has experienced an almost total loss of self-esteem over the last 20 years. I have seen her struggling to tell her story, to speak of the emotional, physical, and spiritual pain she endured. It was very difficult for her to relay her story to others, much less to relate to those who believed that she had a good husband, but that she was being stubborn in not accepting my father's other wives. So in many cases, the women or children trapped in a polygamous situation will simply retreat into a world of their own, a world that often seems shrouded in darkness, a world with no hope of light. They come into a very bleak place, one that is painful for the soul, the mind, and for one's emotions. Their inner pain runs deep, though it may be unseen by others. I realized that many women needed a forum in which they could feel free to discuss what they have gone through, how they have felt, and how they can reclaim their lives and their freedom and move beyond the tears. My prayer has been to find a way to help my mother heal and live out the rest of her days in peace. I'm a therapist who has worked with many and helped many, but I felt helpless when it came to helping my mother. I didn't know how to help myself either. You might be asking, well, how were you affected by what your father did to your mother? Surely you shouldn't feel so much pain and resentment. Yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. There are certain feelings that all children who watch any of their parents splitting must endure. These feelings are greater when you watch your parents at odds with each other like enemies. Mother always emphasized that no matter how she feels about Dad, we should always love him, treat him well, because he is our father. We have continued to do our part as children. The symptoms that I have struggled with are fear and tension. I have found myself feeling angry for years, but I'm only now realizing that this anger eventually caused emotional and even physical trauma for me and for my siblings. We all struggle with trusting our spouses. I have seen my sisters become angry with their husbands for no apparent reason. We have discussed how our tension and our fear of experiencing the things that happen to our mother have gotten in the way of our having loving, caring relationships with our respective husbands. Danger. Although I was not home during the 9 years in which the abuse included physical harm, my sisters have told me that they were always in danger of being beaten when mother was being physically abused by dad. Confusion. I have realized that as children we often received mixed messages. For example, I grew up hearing my dad criticizing others who were practicing polygamy. I could have sworn that my father would never, ever marry another wife. To my amazement, he did. I did not understand it. I was hurt. I was confused. Hopelessness. For years, my siblings and I were angry with my father. We despised his actions and we despised him. Mother prayed and spoke to us, asking us to ease up on him because he's our father. Despite all that she had gone through, she still found it in her to want us to love our father regardless. The good news is that we actually can go beyond these tears, ladies. We can escape being victims. We do have the capacity deep within each of us to overcome the wrongs that were done to us and become strong, empowered women. We can regain our hope, our trust, and our faith. The hardest part is reaching the point where we are ready to make decisions to pick up our baggage, hoist it out the door, into the trash bin, and leave it there. Ridding our lives of the inner pain that has haunted us. You see, that's just what the painful past is. Trash. The painful past keeps us from moving forward and stops us from walking the path of the true purpose for which we were created. I am ready to move on. I'm ready for my God-given purpose. None of us was created for the sole purpose of being abused. For those of us who have experienced physical, emotional, or spiritual abuse, let us take those terrible events and use them as a way to learn, heal, and help others as God prepared us to do. This applies to all people who have experienced sexual abuse as well. There is a big difference between reliving your past and sharing your testimony for the benefit of others. This book was written for the sole purpose of sharing my testimony, sharing information of my family's life as a way to benefit all those who have had to live through similar experiences. The intent is a hopeful one, to lift others up. The key is forgiveness. The way that my mother has come to experience her own angels who have helped her heal is both unconventional and amazing. When she came to the United States in 2009, I connected a home phone that was just for her to use. I had heard that there were prayer lines that had been started by Zimbabweans for Zimbabweans. I gave her the numbers and we both called from our respective phones to listen in on the prayers, testimonies, and Bible readings. I had no idea that the women on these prayer lines would be the angels on my mother's path that would finally free her from her heavy heart. She befriended a lot of the women from the prayer line and started to have daily phone prayers with as many as 5 people a day. It was during these intimate prayer calls that she decided she was going to volunteer her time preaching as well. I helped her with the Bible verses she needed and helped her practice with me as her audience before she preached on the telephone. She was amazing. I had thought she was still the shy lady with a poor sense of self-worth that I had remembered. The prayer lines gave her confidence. One day she felt comfortable sharing her story, and from that day onward, she has had many blessing-filled moments praying with the women who call her for prayer because they can relate to her story. I've had people message me on Facebook saying they heard my mother preach on the telephone prayer line. I'll give the prayer line info at the end of this book. To all those mothers who have prayed with my mother, who have listened to her story a million times, soothed her crying and given her hope when you had no idea you were being her angel, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Beyond all those tears is hope and encouragement for an anointed life that only God has in store for each of us. In His own way, my Father has been an angel to my mother and to us, His children. We are who we are today because of His love as a father and His care as a husband when the going was good. For that, Father, we thank you. Now, on a lighter note, there are many people whom I have to acknowledge in this chapter. But first, let me remind you that each of us come into this world with a special mission or purpose in life that only we can accomplish. It is the quest to find our mission, our purpose that allows us to form meaningful relationships with every person is an angel. Every so often, some fortunate people may have a sense of what their purpose is, but many others have no idea. The few that might know may find out that they are not fortunate enough to have the encouragement or support they need. Instead, many of us are pushed into doing the things that our parents or other people feel is really best for us to be doing. And we end up ignoring our own vision of what we came here to do. Coming to America allowed me to follow my own heart and gave me the will and the stamina to go against what others might have seen me doing with all my life. In every path I have traveled, I now realize that there have been lots and lots of angels along the way. Angels who, when I was lost, sad, and confused, always reminded me that I'm here for a purpose. It is amazing that when you start to think of life as having angels who have messages for you at all times, you begin to hear and see through a different lens. Life becomes meaningful. For me, angels were the people I met and the inner voice I heard that would speak to me gently when I was working in jobs that I hated. I would be desperately wishing that there was something else I would be doing to pay the rent and put food on the table. Then I would hear the inner voice. It was at those moments, especially when this happened, that I honestly believed that there's more to life than what we settle for. I started seeing that if I took time to listen to those angels around me, my life would take a turn for the better in due time. The key is having the courage to look, to listen, to be open and willing to take risks and to begin working towards change. The first angel I will mention who helped me to find my purpose and who taught me that there are truly angels along the way is a lady I'll call Miss Mary. I was working at a local nursing home in Lowell, Massachusetts. After 2 years of working full-time and going to school for a degree in computer science, I met a family that was bringing their family, Miss Mary, into the nursing home. Miss Mary was in a wheelchair. She was crying and screaming at her children, asking them why they were not able to care for her at her home, and demanding to know why she had to be in a nursing home. She accused her children of not appreciating all she had done for them. It was a horrible thing to see and hear. I asked them to take Miss Mary to a private room where I sat with them and talked to the family and tried to calm them down. I assured Miss Mary that we would take good care of her and that we would treat her with respect and dignity as if she were our own mother. I promised the children that we would do everything we could to make their mother comfortable and to help her feel at home. I spoke to them until the charge nurse ordered me to go back to my assigned work. It was heart-wrenching to leave them, but as I turned to go, I saw that Miss Mary had stopped crying and she and her children were talking to one another without yelling. I made it a point to stop by the room again before I left the day, and I also went to see Miss Mary every day to make sure she was all right. I was just doing my job, but little did I know that I was on the path to finding my authentic self. One day, I stopped by to see Miss Mary, and she asked me what courses I was taking in school. I told her that I was pursuing a computer science degree. She shook her head in disagreement and said, "You're not a computer person. You're a social worker." She went on to explain that the way I had spoken to her and her family when they arrived at the nursing home that first day, reassuring them and then following up to be sure she was all right, was exactly what social workers do. She told me that I had been at ease when talking to her and her family. It appeared to be natural for me to console and help others. It was something I was really good at. I had helped her and her family through one of their darkest days. I was shocked. First of all, I had no idea that I could make a living by talking to people. Secondly, I had no idea I had made such an impact on Miss Mary and her family. It was a wonderful feeling. Miss Mary suggested I speak to the nursing home social worker and ask about a career in social work. I had long admired that social worker, the woman who always came in to help new families adjust to the nursing home. But I've had to confess that what I liked most about her was the way she dressed. She wore pretty suits and high heels every day. I had no idea that what she did for a living was so exciting, or that I could actually be like her one day and even wear suits like her. The next day, I took Miss Mary's advice and spoke to the social worker. The woman was extremely negative about her profession and about my chances of succeeding in it. She told me it was nearly impossible to get into any of the graduate programs without experience. She said it was especially difficult to get into the Boston University program that she had graduated from. Well, I went straight to Miss Mary's room and declared that I was going to be a social worker, and I even knew which college I was going to attend to earn my social work degree. Boston University. I was so excited to think that I could have a job I loved, a job I was born to do, that not even the social worker's lack of encouragement could stop me. To just be myself, talking to and helping people and getting paid more money than I ever made before, my excitement and optimism overshadowed every bit of that social worker's negativity. I knew that if other people were able to get into Boston University's social work program, then it was possible for me too. I am proud to say I am today a graduate of Boston University. Thank you, my angel, Miss Mary. I know that you are smiling in heaven to see the work I'm doing now to help others live their best possible lives, just as you did for me. I also found one of my late best friends in this nursing home, Edna Williams, who died of cancer a few years ago. It is because of her that I made it in the nursing home at all. I thought it was a very demeaning and difficult job until she showed me that if you do the job not as a job, but wholeheartedly, it becomes a joy, not a chore. To my friends and mentors, thank you. You all have been my angels in your own ways. My apologies if I have left out any names. My heart is filled with gratitude. Thank you, my angels, Linda Eastman, Saru Furusa Walsh, Rumbidzayam Konto, Paulette Miller Randolph, Rhonda Scott Sudat, Eliza McCall Horn, Elizabeth Avila, Salvador Lainez, Frank Kirshner, Mr. Wolf, Miss June Marie Kershaw, Harold Marks, Carol McFarlane, Melanie Favors, Janine Furdock, Phyllis Manchner, John Lowblack, my uncle Sanda Sanganza, Steve Muzite, Auntie Za, the Sanganza and Matlatini families, all the people that I worked with at Fairhaven Nursing Home, Palmena Nursing Home, Tampa General Hospital, Salem High School in Massachusetts, Visions FM, Menchner and Associate Counseling Services, the Urban League of Central Florida, and the Department of Juvenile Justice. Lessons learned. This life is yours. Take the time to recognize the angels around you. Each person that you meet has a lesson for you, be it good or bad. take advantage of all opportunities because you never know where you might meet that life-changing angel along the way. Every situation in life has a purpose and a lesson to teach us. There's a reason behind why things happen, why situations change, and why people do what they do. The lesson has been to embrace what life has to offer. My father's path was to be the way it is, so we have embraced it. My mother's path was to be the way it is, and we also have embraced it. Their two lives have woven a clearer path for me and for my siblings. If I had not gone through what I have gone through, had not witnessed the pains, and had not embraced the angels along the way, I would not have a memoir to share. I would not have a story to tell. I would not have a testimony to share with others who are experiencing the same pain. There's healing beyond the tears. A dose of motivation. My mother has shared with me some of the Bible verses and songs that have inspired and motivated her. I will share these with you so that you too can be motivated and pass them on. The verse that comes to mind is Psalms 91. Mother's peace was found in Psalms 91, which reads, "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, 'The Lord is my refuge,' and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because He loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I'll answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation."